Hi, this is just a short review video on how to simplify operations that have an imaginary number I in them. We've worked through three types of operations. We've worked through adding, subtracting, and multiplying, and so that's what I'm just going to review today. So my first example would be if I had 1 plus I, and that complex number is added to 3 plus 2I. Again, you may need to pay very close attention to the operation in between the two parentheses. Because we have parentheses, you can distribute a 1. So if I distribute 1, that just gets rid of this. If I distribute a 1 to both of those, I still have plus 3 and a plus 2i. And then all we have to do from here is add together our like terms. So I have 4 that are real numbers, and I have 3 that are i's. So adding is a pretty straightforward operation. The second operation was if we had two complex numbers. I'm going to have, again, 1 plus I, and this time I'm going to subtract. I'll make it a little bit different. I'll have 4 minus 5i. Again, when doing this, you first want to get rid of your parentheses by distributing. So this first one, I'm just distributing a 1. So I have 1 plus I. Here, I have to remember that there's an imaginary 1 here, and I'm distributing the negative 1 to both of those two values. So I have negative 1 times 4, which is negative 4. I'm distributing a negative 1 times a negative 5, which gives me a positive 5i. So be very careful about your negative signs, two of them making it positive. And then you do the same thing you did in our first example, as you combined your real numbers 1 and a negative 4 gives me a negative 3. I have an I and a 5i, so I get a total of 6i. So those are two examples in which you are adding and subtracting. The third example I'd like to go through is one in which you have to multiply. So I'm going to use, again, the 1 plus I, and let me just get rid of that if I can. And we're going to multiply this time, so there's no symbol in between. We're going to multiply by 2 minus 3i. Again, I apologize, that keeps showing up. So we have to FOIL. So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times a negative 3i is a negative 3i. I times 2 is a positive 2i. And I times a negative 3i is negative 3i squared. From here, as I looked at most of our quizzes, we were totally fine with combining like terms. So we saw this was 2. If I put together my i's, I have a negative 1i and minus 3i squared. The part that we need to remember is that an I squared, again, on the front of the board, or what we talked about in our table from our book, I squared equals negative 1. And what that allows us to do is that allows us to use substitution in for that I squared and substitute in a negative 1. So now I have 2 minus I, a minus times minus, I actually have plus 3. This became a plus 3. Now I can combine together my real numbers, and I have 5 minus I. So this is just a brief, again, review of how to do operations of numbers when you are dealing with I, that imaginary value.